Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Women in Business. It is Wednesday, July 29th, 2022 at 3 o'clock p.m. And as you all know, that means it's time for Women in Business. Few little notes today. First of all, if you hear really loud airplanes going overhead and making a lot of noise, it is Cherry Festival starts this weekend. The air show starts this weekend. The Blue Angels are here, and a lot of huge, really loud jets are here that are going to be in the air show. And we are on the flight path for their routines and their practices. So it gets really loud here sometimes. So that's not fun. But if you hear a really loud plane, that is why. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, as I always do, is if you are looking for good news about what's happening in the world, you want to follow 19thnews.org. They follow women's issues. They follow social justice issues. This is stuff that you guys need to know, so you should check them out. And I am going to bring in my guest today. I have Cristina Schulman and Hope Dale from Love That Cotton and Everything Embroidery Market. And I'm going to pop them in real quick. Thank you for being here, ladies. I appreciate it so much.
Well, thank you. We're so honored to be able to have some time with you today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Hey, I'm just, I know how busy everybody is, and to just that you guys are taking time to come talk with me is just like, I appreciate it a lot. But I want to ask you first, now, the capsule bio of you two is you own and run Love That Cotton, and you also are the showrunners and owners, I believe now, for Everything Embroidery Market. So that's like big jobs. So is there anything I left out of that, or is that pretty much the capsule synopsis?
Yeah, that's and podcast runner as well, mom, wife, all the things.
Mom, wife, podcast personality, you run a trade show, and you own a business. So you don't sleep or eat or relax ever, basically.
Correct.
Yeah, well, I think that's true.
It's true.
It is true.
Well, I want to start with Love That Cotton, because if you have not seen this company, and I came prepared today, where did I put it? There we go. Whoops. So this is their URL. You have the most adorable blanks for kids and babies ever. They're so cute. So I guess that's a question. And this just occurred to me. How do you guys decide what you carry? Is that a weird question?
No, that's it's not weird. And I guess the short answer is we have lots and lots and lots of ideas. And I guess initially it was just anything that we thought in our mind that was cute, that was kind of Southern-ish style that would do well with a monogram. And then after the brand had kind of been created, now it's the first question is, does it fit within our brand? And if so, let's try and get a sample made up. So we actually have each one of our products. Most of the time it comes from our head, and then my mom will draw something because she used to be an interior designer, and she's also part owner in Love That Cotton. And so she'll draw something up, just sketch it out on a piece of paper, and then we actually get a physical sample made. And then from there, if it fits, if it works, and we'll put it into production. But long ago, it was kind of just like everything. And I think that businesses evolve, right? When you first start, you think you can do a little bit of everything. And we've realized that some things that maybe we thought would be or do well in our brand maybe didn't, just because that wasn't our target market, and we hadn't realized that at the moment. We didn't know what our target market was. We just knew embroidery and Southern. And now we kind of have figured out a little bit more pinpointed what people want. So.
And not
I love
bringing
that you said
on. That. Yeah, and it's also trying to figure out, like, not bringing on so much So sometimes it could just be one item that we introduce that's new, or a variation of an item, and it can go back and forth on tweaking and things that we want. Do we want to add a ruffle? Do we want to add, something else on it? So it can go back and forth quite a bit before it gets to what we want in production as well. But
I love this so much because you just said a couple of things that I think a lot of businesses work. One is you have to test things out and see which version of it is going to work. And the other one is you have to know your target market. And if I had a dime for every business person I've ever talked to, and I say, well, who are you trying to market to? Well, everybody. And I'm like, no.
You can't. You can't.
No, that's impossible.
Thank you. Thank you, Hope. I want to just get a little snippet of that, and I'll play it to everybody. Because that's just, well, I mean, I honestly think, and this is just my opinion, but I've been in marketing for quite a while, that people don't want to take the time to figure it out. So it's just easier to say, and it's more optimistic maybe to say, oh, we could sell to anyone. I don't know. That's my theory. Anyway.
Yes.
But
well, and I think that when we started, that was what it was. Like, not everybody, we had a market in mind, but as we started to gain customers, we started to listen to our customers and then see if what they said matched up with our goal, our dream, what we envisioned for our company. And if we're able to merge that with what we produce, that now is pretty much what we're honestly, almost exclusively at this point, it is a customer recommendation. I mean, it just because you recommend it doesn't mean that we can do it, offer it. But if it is something that we're hearing over and over again, we will listen, and then we put our touch on it. We're not going to just do something that someone else does. We do try and make it unique to us, but then that really has been something that we try to do. Everything new has been mentioned probably multiple times by the people that we know buy from us, and we know that they actually want it. So,
or even just adding colors into items we already have. They're like, oh, we would love this in a baby blue corduroy. And it's like, we think about it or look at it. It's like, you know what, that's a great idea. And we use it. Or we say, you know what, I don't know that that's going to work. But it's, our customers kind of tell us what they want. So it's a bonus of our customers being awesome.
Geez, this is like a masterclass in stuff you should do if you run a business. Listen to your customers. And I want to hit a couple of comments here real quick. Cindy King, who is a perennial watcher of our show, and I cannot make the comments work today, says, welcome, ladies. She's happy to see you. And
Hi,
Lisa
Cindy.
says, good afternoon. Nice to hear how you focus on your market. So, and it is, but I want to move on to another question, because this is something that I found. For those of you that don't know, I work with a woman named Lindsay Salcido, who is the owner of Linny Penny and the founder of Applique Getaway. And we complement each other really well. So that's a question I want to ask you. Does what you two do together work so well because you have different skill sets, or is it because you've been friends so long, or what makes the partnership work?
Well, yes, to everything you just said.
Okay.
So there came a point where I needed something, and I wasn't even really sure what that something was. It was support, it was help, it was just sanity, maybe a little bit.
Okay.
A sounding board. I was only one person trying to do everything. And Hope's someone that I've known since 7th grade, right? She's someone that I know will shoot me straight.
Right.
She's someone who's just completely honest and will work hard. And at the end of the day, I know will have my, as well as my business's best interest at heart. And so I feel kind of like the stars just aligned, where it just so happened that she was looking for a position and we needed somebody. And so she kind of came in and has been that right hand person for me. And sometimes it is her just being like, Christina, go take a break and go play with your kids. And then, you know, because that's important too. But she's been someone who just even from day one, it was like, holy moly, why didn't I have this person to center me and help propel both businesses forward from the day she started? I mean, honestly, It's been night and day just having someone, because a lot of the things go on in my mind and I could release those things to her and she could do it. And whereas it would have taken me so much longer because I'm only one person. So
I
think we're a good yin and yang, because there's some things that are Christina's strong point that are not mine, and vice versa. Or there's things that I'm like, you know what, that actually sounds like it's fun to tackle. I'll do that. You do that. Like, it's a good mix of, not only do I feel like we complement each other and we've known each other a long time, so we also know when to shoot it straight, when to step back. You know, there's multiple things in our relationship that I feel like is what makes us work together well as a team.
Right. And I think she knows, like, even sometimes, like, if I'm feeling discouraged, she'll know, just, I don't have to say it. It'll be just a tone in my voice that she's known me for so long that she's like, okay, I hear that. So let's slow down. Or I'm excited about something and she's like, let's reel it in a little bit. So not in a bad way, in a good way. But
well,
I really think that, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say, you just made me laugh because Lindsay and I get on rolls too. And one of us will have to go, okay, we can't do like these 9 things all at once right now. So I get that.
Yes. No, I think it's just, sometimes it's one day at a time, but in my mind, whether it's a partner like Hope, or you and Lindsay, or a husband or a best friend, or, you know, it's good to have somebody to be able to balance off of, you know. And if you don't have that person, someone online or a community or something that you feel like you can release a little bit and move forward, if that makes sense. So
I would definitely agree with that. Well, I want to ask too. So, in addition to Love That Cotton, you guys also run a trade show. And full disclosure to everybody who's watching, who probably already knows this, your trade show and the trade show that I'm a part of are in the same market, basically. But I don't even really think we're competitors. We're just friends who happen to serve the same market. But I want to ask you about that, because that's a whole different animal. So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. Which one of you two is the detail person for the trade show?
As far as what though, like who the organizer?
Well, how do you split it up? Because there's a lot of moving parts in a trade show. Is one of you like more publicity and one of you is more like the nuts and bolts stuff? Or does one of you handle setting up education and somebody else deals with the vendors? How do you guys do it?
So we actually have more than just us two on the team. So my sister also does things for Love That Cotton, as well as and then we have Norma, who is our vendor coordinator. So she is our point person between our vendors and us. My sister does a lot of the coordinating with the venue. And then Hope and I do obviously the social media aspect, where we're doing the interviews. We kind of wrap everything up and put a bow on it and try to present it out to everybody. I guess we both now do a lot of the getting the stuff on the actual website, right? Dealing with emails and all that kind of stuff.
Wherever there's gaps, we fill it. So, I mean, if we see that a vendor has emailed and they need to be, we need to email them back. then whoever sees it first gets to it. Or, I mean, unless it's specifically saying this is
vendors,
to Norma.
Right. Typically Norma, we have a system where Norma will be like, I got it. And so we know that she has handled it, and she's normally very quick at the response time. But if something falls through the cracks, then one of us, Hope or myself, will pick that ball up. And as far as being, I don't know, hands on deck, we're really all just a team. And I don't know that any one of us could say we do more or less than any of the others.
I get that. Yeah, it's the same with our team too. It's, whoever can grab the ball in the moment. We have specific areas that are maybe more our responsibility, like you guys do. But and I want to put up, just so everybody sees it, this is the URL for Everything Embroidery Market. You guys are in Myrtle Beach in September, I believe. Yes?
Yes.
Correct. Yes, September 22nd through the 24th.
Okay. So if you are a fan of Applique Getaway, you will like Everything Embroidery Market, and vice versa, I would think. So something to look at. But I want to ask you too, because one of the things that I didn't know you did until very recently is you guys have a podcast, which I listened to the one you did with Erin Montgomery. And it was great. And I was like, I didn't know they did this. So how did that start?
So that was one of Christina's many light bulbs. I'm like, we should do this. We should do this. We should do this. It kind of was one of those things that maybe I've thought about for a while. And actually, we were talking with our website guy, and he kind of just gave us just a little bit of encouragement that was like, hey, just try it. And that was like day one, Hope's very first day working.
Literally the day I started. I live in Houston, and so I had driven to Granbury to go to the warehouse and all of that. And I'm, talking to everybody. We're talking to the website guy, and he's telling us we should do a podcast. And then Cristina looks at me and she's like, okay, let's do it. And I'm like, oh, okay, let's do it.
Yep. And we just kind of started. Yeah, we just started. It was one of those things. That day we set a date. Okay, our first podcast is going to air here.
November
this is
15th.
Kind of, yep. She's Hope's my date person. She remembers all the details. And we did it. We just launched our first one, and we've learned a ton. And it's honestly been really fun. I'm sure you understand, because obviously you do podcasts too. It's fun to hear the other side of a business, right? You get to talk to someone and just see where they came from. And I've really enjoyed that.
Oh yeah. That's the best part of this, is getting to hear people's stories and finding out stuff I didn't know. Like I said, I never knew you guys had a podcast until I saw Aaron posted the one that you guys did with him. And I was like, hey, this is pretty good.
I mean, that being said, that was our first season. We only do 10 episodes a season, so we're only in our second season right now. So it's not like it's been out there forever. We are still kind of in the newbie section, but I think it's so fun to do. I think it's fun to hear everybody's story and their backgrounds and kind of get to know people on a deeper level through it. And it makes you, when you do finally meet these people in person, it's like, oh, wow, I feel like I already know you. Like,
yeah,
you can come in and get the hug without it being weird.
I like it. I can hug you because we did a podcast together.
Right. Exactly.
So be prepared. I'm going to hug you when I see you at Applique Getaway. So just, be ready. But I have a couple of questions here, and they're good ones. So I want to ask, Lisa asks, how do you guys split the time between Love That Cotton and Everything Embroidery Market? Good question. So how do you divide up the time?
Okay.
Do you divide up the time? Is it just whatever needs to be done in a particular moment?
So that's kind of how it used to be. It was kind of both every day. And we were finding that wasn't it wasn't working as well as we wanted it to, and it was hard to keep all the balls in the air. So kind of what we've tried to do is set certain days where we do certain things. So Mondays are always super busy at the Love That Cotton warehouse. So because we had all the weekend orders, you know, we don't work on the weekends, or we don't fulfill orders on the weekends, I guess is a better way to say that. And so we have an influx of orders. We're trying to get stuff out. We're trying to get ready for the week. So I'm normally at the warehouse on Mondays. Hope and I will talk in the morning. She'll do her thing. Most of the time we don't talk a whole lot on Mondays. And then every other Thursday, we have an all hands meeting for everything embroidery market. We do basically what we've chosen to do is every month we try to touch base on every aspect of both businesses. And we have certain days where we will follow up on certain parts of each business, if that makes sense, because otherwise we'll drop the ball. And so once a month is a website refresh. Once a month is a social media, or what is it?
Our social media, one of the ladies that helps us with social media, like we have a call with her. We have our EM call every other Thursday. We've tried to bake these things into our schedule to where we just know that's when we're touching base on these. And a lot of times it's really great because we will make notes for those meetings. Like if it's not something urgent, but oh yeah, we need to talk about that at the next meeting. It's a great point because then it gets rid of a lot of the chaos in the back and the forth. If you just know, if it's not something that's immediate and something that you have to answer right now, like just saying like, hey, this is something we need to talk about at the next meeting. It's great because I feel like then you have that clear, concise answer. You have your discussion, you have your answer, and then you're like, okay, this is what we're doing.
Well, and let's be honest, it's not always like we have those meetings every single month, every week, but there's always something that comes up. And because what was happening before was we were letting what came up dictate that entire week. And then it felt, I mean, we were getting it done, but it felt like everything else was falling to the wayside until that became so important. And so this is, whilst things still come up, this has kind of been a way that we've been able to kind of juggle a little bit better, I guess. So.
I like it.
Well, and I think it just gives you a plan and to see kind of like everything in front of you of how you know, if you have certain goals, you put that in there. You can say, okay, well, or I know this busy season is coming up. We need to start addressing it now before we're in over our heads. Like it just gives you a good idea on the playing field ahead. And so when things do come up, it's a lot easier to bob and weave and figure it out than when everything's just like up in the air and it's like, oh gosh, when I go look at this thing, then everything else falls to the wayside or vice versa. Like it's and again, not to say things don't come up all the time,
but
they do all the time, but it just helps when you have those other things baked in on a regular schedule and you know it just seems to help everything else.
Right. And one thing that's really, really helped me that we just recently started is about once a month, I just sit down after the kids are in bed, after a work day, and I just brain dump. So I'll go, Love That Cotton. This is everything for Love That Cotton. Then I'll go, everything embroidery market. This is for everything embroidery market. This is for EEM Connect. This is for the podcast. This is for marketing. This is for, and I just dump it all out there. And then typically a day or two later, Hope and I will go through that. Anything from that list that we can put on the next meeting that's scheduled, we do. And then anything that needs to be tackled, we divide it and tackle it. So just having a regular dump has been really great for my sanity.
Oh, I totally get that. And if you don't do that, you forget things or you lose ideas that could be really valuable. So, and Lisa chimes in, She loves the brain dump idea.
Yes.
I think I like that one too. I may have to start doing that.
You should. I mean, you seriously should. And I have to do it in a time where I know I'm not going to get interrupted, because that is the hardest thing. I get interrupted all day, every day, whether it's a phone call, a text, a kid is hungry, a kid is hurt, just shuffling, the shuffle of life in general. I have to do it at night, typically on a night that my husband's working late, and I know everyone's asleep, my house is quiet, and I can just write it all down. And
right.
See, and I do a morning brain dump. My parents are avid list writers, and I am too. So every morning, and like my dad still does it, my mom does it, like they write lists as soon as they wake up, like of things they need to get done today. And I feel like that's what I do. I do it daily, and then I do weekly. And it's just like, these are the things that I need to hit. And no, not every day do all of those things get hit, but it's just a nice to-do list that helps. And then when you do the brain dump, it helps.
yeah, that's our yin and yang. That's our yin and yang. I don't think I would have started my brain dump if it weren't for Hope, because she is a list person, and it helps because she writes everything down that we discuss. There's a kid that she discusses. She writes everything down that we discuss that morning or whenever it is that we talk. And 2 weeks later, when we have that meeting, she has detailed notes about what it was we talked about. So I don't have to, or we don't have to spend the time thinking about what was it that we said. She's like, hold on. And then she's got it all there. It's written down, and it's really been great. So I'm not a list person, but I'm glad you are.
It works, I think, from the standpoint of, I'm a list person too, so I'm probably more like Hope in this particular situation. I have lists upon lists, but there is something about getting it out of your head and putting it, and it doesn't have to be on paper, it could be in an app or whatever it is, but just putting it in something so you can see it. And you don't, my big thing is I always go, oh, I'll remember that. I don't have to write it down. And then I never remember it. But
as a kid, I would always say I'll remember it, but I like doodling, so I always ended up doodling something. But I didn't have any other like real responsibilities. Once I became a wife and a mother and trying to do a job and all that, and I'm like, I'm not going to remember it. I got to write it down. And most of the time I remember it because I wrote it down. Like,
right.
It's not, I used to not do it as much, but now I'm like, I can't juggle all these balls and not write this down because I'm going to forget. For sure.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
I'm totally there with you. I live by my calendar now. I have no idea what's going on unless I have, it's like first thing in the morning, get up and look at the calendar and see what I'm doing, because otherwise I have no idea. It's really sad. And I'm not blaming that on the fact that, I'm a little older now either. I'm going to say that it's just, there's too much going on. So
yes,
it's busy. Yeah. Lots going on. Lots of balls in there.
It is. Well, one of the other questions, and this is a little more abstract, but I wanted to talk about this because one of the things we do on this show is we talk about issues facing women. And one of the things that I hear a lot is, I would never work with another woman, or women are hard to work with. Women are competitive. Women are catty. Women are whatever adjective you want to use. But I know of a lot of female partnerships that work really well. So I guess the question I want to ask you guys, and like I said, I realize this is more abstract, but where do you think that comes from? Why do you think some women have the assumption that other women won't be good work partners?
Well, that's a good question. Where it comes from, I think maybe and I'm speaking for myself. I think what I catch myself when I feel the most threatened maybe is when maybe there's a jealousy, or I put them maybe they are my goal. And if they are my goal, then maybe I feel less than. And so I'm wondering if that's where it comes from. Insecurities, right. And so I also think that is not good.
I agree with you.
It's not good, but there is a certain amount of emotion when you're talking about business, right? It's your baby, you love it, you work hard, and emotions get high sometimes. And if you put someone on a pedestal, maybe that's where it stems from. But I also think, especially like me and Hope's relationship, me and Norma, me and my sister, my mom, I work with a lot of amazing women. We have a team of women at the warehouse too that they're here every day, they work hard, and it is, I truly honestly believe that in their heart we all want the same thing. Sure. Right? We want to come together and just do better every day. And sometimes when I just need to put my insecurities aside, and that is something that Hope has helped me do too. She'll be like, okay, in a very kind and respectful way, she'll just say, but for real, very kind and respectful, she'll just say, maybe sleep on it. And that just means like, let's revisit it. She's not attacking. And I think that if people just took a step back when their emotions started to run, that you'll realize it's not a competition. There shouldn't be jealousy. Just keep working harder. So
I like it. Okay. What do you think, Hope? Got anything you want to add to that?
Well, I do think a lot of, jealousy and competition, I mean, that's insecurities, but I don't think that that's any different than the men in the industry, not necessarily this industry, but in anything. I mean, men do it too. They're competitive. They want the bigger, better job, the higher pay. I think that's human nature. I don't think that's woman versus man necessarily. I do think some women are harder to work with, but then again, I also think that not everybody gets along with everybody, and that's okay too. Like, not everybody's personalities mesh. So sometimes there's some women that are hard to take. And then maybe y'all don't get along together, but that doesn't mean that they're not good with someone else. They just might not be, you might not mesh with them, but that doesn't mean that they don't mesh with someone else. I mean, it's just like friend groups. Like some friends, that two, let's say you have a friend group and you're inviting everybody out to dinner and okay, well, I just don't invite these two friends to the same places because they don't get along. That's kind of how I feel. Like, it's not necessarily that women are catty or anything like that. I just think some people bring out worse things than others. And it's not that
and some better.
And some better. But sorry, that was more like in addressing this question. Like, I just feel like it's not necessarily I don't know. Some personalities mesh with others better. And I don't think sometimes, unfortunately, you don't always get to choose who you work with, especially in bigger companies. And so you just don't mesh with them. And then, that stinks that, you don't have the power to do anything about it. But I feel like sometimes it's just, it's personalities. I don't think it's necessarily like, I don't know, women get a bad rap, but I think it's just some people don't mesh well. And I think that happens with men too, except men usually just go the opposite direction. Like, they might blow up at each other, but then they can walk away and continue to work. Whereas maybe women can't. Maybe women hold on to it a little longer. Like, that, that was rude what she said, and I can't believe they did that. And, maybe more of that. But, it's just personalities.
I think that's
we
very
don't all
true.
get along with everybody. I mean, that it doesn't matter if you are, this is one of my favorite analogies. It doesn't matter if you are the perfect, juiciest peach. there's going to be someone that comes along that says, I hate peaches. And that's just how it is. Like, not everybody meshes well with each other. And you just got to
I
take it
like
for
that.
what it
That's a
is.
good, well, and I think the reason I asked this question is because I know a lot of female partnerships that are really awesome. But then I'll talk to somebody else and they say, oh, well, I like working with men better. I get along with men so much better. And I'm like, okay. but I don't understand why some women seem so set on the idea that women are hard to work with. I don't get that. So I don't know. I was just asking, maybe you guys knew the answer.
I was in an office of all men before I came and worked here. Sorry, I have to go get my charger. And it's different. Men, well, the men I worked with who were much older, needed a lot more help to do things. There was a lot of hand holding.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't feel that way with, obviously I don't feel that way with Cristina. She can get stuff done.
Right.
But the older demographic needed help with a lot. Just put it that way.
Well, I think I think regardless where you're at, it's going to be different, right? Men, women, it's going to be different. And for me, if you're in a position, I don't think you should just say, I can't work with this person because they're a woman. I think if that person, because of their personality, doesn't mesh with you, you find someone that you mesh with. But I do think women are hardworking. Women are caring. Women are, I think they genuinely want to help. They're nurturing, and I don't think that we would be where we are without the great group of women that we have behind our businesses. So
I love that. And I have to applaud Hope that she was seamless getting that charger. That was awesome.
I was trying to, except it's not working. Technically.
Oh, you were great. You didn't drop a beat. I was like, go. That's awesome. Well, I want to ask too about, I'm switching topics again because I have a lot of topics in my head that I wanted to talk to you guys about. But one of the things that comes up a lot, and I don't know if you guys have encountered this, is the whole kind of division that some people think there is between the home crafter people or the people that use the home machines and the people that are more commercial embroiderers with brick and mortar shops or whatever. And there seems to be this theory amongst some people that the divide cannot be crossed, that you can't have, it's almost like you can't have a viable business if you're working out of your home, which is completely stupid to me. And I wanted to ask you guys two things. Since you run Everything Embroidery Market, have you encountered this attitude? And then what do you think about it?
I mean, certainly we've heard that, some people think that. I mean, I will field calls. So just because my phone number is on the website, they'll call me and ask and say, I have a commercial business and a commercial embroidery machine or whatever. Is this really someplace that would work for me? And my answer is always yes. I mean, you can certainly learn from the experts that we are bringing in, and we normally chat about it. But my personal opinion on it is absolutely not. That's wrong. And I hate to be so absolute about that thought, but that really is where I'm at, because I started Love That Cotton out of my home. And from my home, it went to my little one room to a room in a garage, then to a 4-car garage, now a warehouse that we've expanded twice. So just because you start somewhere doesn't mean that's where it's going to always be. And
good point.
Also with Love That Cotton, I've seen so many people that are a home-based business, that are successful, multi-million-dollar businesses being run out of these people's homes. Many of them. It's not just that one person. I feel like the success of your business is going to depend on the work you put into it. And so
I'm sorry, Angela just made me laugh. She says, "Amen, sister."
yeah, I mean, I believe that. Put the hard work in, and you'll reap the benefits, right? If you're in a brick and mortar and you don't put work in, then you may not make it. And the same thing goes if it's in your home. So while I understand why some people might ask that question, my personal opinion is no, you can have a successful business in or out of your home. You're in the driver's seat.
I agree. What do you think, Hope?
I think you can do.
It's a
You
stupid
make
question.
it any. I mean, hey, didn't Bill Gates start his? Like, didn't they start out
Apple
of a
was
garage?
in his, or Microsoft was
in his
it was
garage.
either
So
Apple or Microsoft that started in somebody's garage.
I think they both did. Like, I mean, that's no. That's if someone thinks that they're no. I think it is what you make it, and wherever you can make it. And out of your house is like the best. Personally, I think is one of the best places to start, unless you need to be in a certain, unless there's a particular spot. I feel like out of your house is probably your safest bet, because you're not paying extra to be in your house, right? It's less overhead to start there. And I mean, I'm not saying to stay there. I'm just saying, if you can't start there, where can you start if you're trying to do something on your own?
Well, and I don't understand the whole theory that there's more legitimacy if you pay rent on a storefront than if you have a shed on your property or you're using your spare bedroom. You know, like I have 2 spare bedrooms in my house, and this one is the studio. Is it less legitimate because it's upstairs from my living room? I mean, I don't get that. I don't know. It's just one of those weird things that comes up. But since you guys, you run everything Embroidery Market, and I'm part of running Applique Getaway, I thought we should talk about this because I guess this is it's the bigger thing that maybe I want to talk about for a minute, which is this. A lot of businesses started by women or run by women tend to be out of the home because you have kids, you have family responsibilities. It's more convenient. It makes more sense, whatever it is. And I feel like sometimes there's this kind of diminishment of the accomplishments of women who start businesses because it's out of the second bedroom, or it's started in the garage, or whatever it is. So I guess this is my question. There is a question in here. I'm not just like propagandizing here. The question, I guess, is how do we, and I understand this is a big question, but how do we change that? Is it just going out and telling our stories? Is it correcting people when they say that sort of thing? I don't know. What do you guys think about that? And like I said, I recognize it's a big question. We're not going to change society here with this one show. But
well, I mean, that's actually a really good question. And I can also tell you that I minimized my business, and sometimes still do. Probably that's why Hope's smiling. Sometimes I don't realize sometimes, like, holy moly, we built this, but
and it's not little either. See?
I struggle. For me, I struggle with being proud versus being humble. And so for me, if I feel like I'm not being humble if I state facts about my business, if that makes sense. Whereas
no, I get it.
My husband is one of the most humble people I know, the greatest, like he's such a genuine person, but he also runs 2 big companies, and it's like, yeah, duh, his company is, it's 2 completely different areas of the world, I guess. He's a home builder, but also he's a 5th generation movie entertainment center owner.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's movies, bar, they have arcade, bowling, all the things in one place. And he's the fifth generation to be there. And so I don't even know if I want to say this, but my businesses bring in more than one of his locations, or a couple of them. And I should be
Why
proud
can't you say that?
because I feel like I'm bragging and I don't want to. But
Oh,
it's not that I'm not proud of it, but I don't want to come across where I don't want to come across that way. Whereas my husband's like, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. And I'm like,
yeah.
okay.
Oh, I
And
so identify with that. I can't even tell you. That's like
Well, I
one of
think
my biggest issues.
well, I think that's a lot of women in general. And we actually had a podcast before this, and we had touched on this, is um not having, like, minimizing the work that you do, and
Yes.
being not, I mean, you could be proud yourself, but, like, screaming it from the rooftops. And yes, there is sure, there's a boundary somewhere, but, like, where is it? Because, again, I mean, I do feel like there's a men versus women
Hmm.
stereotype thing working, but women, they feel like they're bragging, or and it's not necessarily that. Like, you should be proud of the work that you've done, and it's an incredible thing that has happened. And it's hard to, but it's hard to say it. I
Hmm.
feel like women a lot have that problem, and maybe when it's out of your home and you've had this, um you're juggling kids and house things, and you're just trying to make a name for yourself,
Hmm.
and you've done it, and then you're afraid to say, well, you know what, wow, I actually did that. Or not only did I start in my house, but I got so big that I needed to get a warehouse, and then that warehouse had to be bigger. Like,
Hmm.
but then you're almost like, you're not scared to say it, but you don't want to say it. You're like downplaying it, but it's awesome, and people should shout it from the rooftops.
I agree.
And
And this is such an interesting conversation for me because I have a lot of this too, where people will tell me, hey, you did this, or I'm almost up to 100 episodes of this show. And I feel like, that's really, but I don't, at the same time, I want to go, yeah, it's a nice little show and people are really nice and they come and talk to me, but 100 episodes is a thing,
it's a
yeah,
thing. Yeah.
I
You,
mean,
but it's just weird. I don't know. I want to get one comment in here and then we'll talk a little more about this, but we are in the midst of some very clever women. Let's conquer the world. I'm all for that.
let's
Team
do it.
us. Let's
yes,
go.
yes, let's do it.
But I want
um,
to talk about this for a little bit because I think you've both touched on interesting aspects of this. And Christina, you touched on kind of the thing that I have too, which is I always say I'm really great at promoting other people, but I stink at promoting myself because
yes,
it feels like I'm bragging or I'm being arrogant or whatever it is. I'm not comfortable with it.
yes. So I have no problem promoting our clothing because I can get behind it. And I
Sure.
100% everything that we put out, I'm proud of. And if I'm not
Right.
proud of it, we don't put it out. There have been a couple times where we've got something in and it wasn't what we thought it was going to be, and we didn't offer it. We just took that
Right.
loss because I don't want to put my name on something that's I'm not proud of. And so I have no problem promoting that, knowing that if it's out there, I stand behind it. It's promote. I guess it's when we cross the line of I'm promoting myself versus my
Mm-hmm.
business that I feel some sort of way, which I also can recognize that is maybe not the best thing. And, I think that, I don't know, 6 years ago when it was still in my home, even though it was growing every year, every year, every year, I don't know that I really felt like it was something
Mm-hmm.
until, I mean, until we moved it out of the home. because, which is an interesting thing. I'd never thought of that before. It may be, not that I didn't think it was something, but it was like, I finally recognized how much we had built, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well,
and I think there's also a shift in how other people think about your business too. Even if it's like a multi-million-dollar business, if it's in your house, there's a perception of, I'm working out of my house and I'm, doing well, but I work out of my house. But I'm also a writer and a marketer, and it's a little different. If you're selling goods or making goods, I think there's a perception when you take it to a brick and mortar somewhere that, it's more legitimate somehow. I don't know what that is, but.
So my brain is like, absolutely not. It's not more legitimate, but I understand.
It's not. No,
too,
it's not.
It's not, right.
I mean, the measure of how successful your business is pleasing your customers, and what's your bottom line at the end of the year? Are you making a profit? It doesn't matter where you do that.
Mm-hmm. And just because you have a brick and mortar does not mean you're making more money. Just because you've expanded into something doesn't mean you're making more money. And I think that
Hope's just sitting here smiling at us like, look, they're getting it.
See, this is why we're so good. She listens to me chat, and then she's like, let's think about that.
I chew on things, and then I say, I don't know. Maybe I say good things. I don't know. It's bad when I just
I
start
think
talking.
Interesting question, and it's something that a lot of women really struggle with. I mean, first of all, acknowledging that they've done well and being able to talk about that. I mean, I did a live last week with Jeff Fuller from Fuller Embroidery Works for Applique Getaway, and Lindsay said something really nice and about how good I am at what I do. And I put the comment up, and I was embarrassed to read it. So Jeff had to read it for me, because it felt weird for me to read this comment about the fact that I'm good at my job, which is stupid, because why
would you continue doing it if you weren't good at it?
Right. It is. Like I said, I can get behind my product and my company 100%, but it's when I talk about myself that I feel, and I don't know if that's a woman thing or just a Cristina thing.
But, well, I have it too. So maybe it's people with some version of the name Christine or Cristina that has this
there you go.
I know more women than us.
Yes.
I will say I am not comfortable talking about myself, but I'm really good at talking about others. Like in this. That sounded bad. That sounded like I just talked.
Talking
no,
good.
I know what you mean, because I have that too.
But I feel like I'm a cheerleader in every sense of the word. Like cheering others on and all that. When it does come back to me, I'm always like, yeah, sure. Okay. Moving on. Back to you.
Yeah, so how do we talk about everybody else?
Yeah, but we should change that, because like I see the value you bring, and when you say I can't do it, I get upset. But if you tell me that, I'm like, no. So what is wrong?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, and Lisa Lisa's like our little commenter here today, and she keeps.
Lisa's great at comments.
Yes, there are a lot of us in that, and then she says, yes, cheerleader. So, but I think maybe that is part of what we need to do, is cheerlead for each other more, and also just tell each other more. You did a good job, or this is impressive, or I'm impressed by what you did. I think sometimes we assume that people know, or that they're aware of the value or how amazing what they're doing is. And we don't say it. So maybe we need to say it more. I don't know.
That's a good idea.
That's my theory for today.
Yes. Well, and I think also, just bringing it back to our industry, I do feel like our industry, the garment decorating industry, does do a good job cheering for everyone within it, right? I mean, just the fact that we're here on your podcast Sorry, they're taping boxes behind this wall.
That's fine.
But just the fact that I'm on this podcast, I think that speaks to that. You know, we can be a community serving the same audience and still be friends and still support each other and still cheer each other on. You know, I obviously still believe, just because we own everything embroidery market doesn't mean that I don't believe in Applique Getaway. Otherwise, my other company wouldn't go there. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right.
There is a place for all of us to bring each other up, and I think we should.
Mm-hmm. Rising tide raises all boats. That's an Aaron Montgomery thing. And I want to promo a few little things here. If you are a woman in the garment decoration industry, any aspect, come join us at Women in Garment Decoration on Facebook. It's an amazing group of some really powerhouse women, and that's what we do. We support each other. We lift each other up. We cheer each other on. That's part of why that group exists. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And more Lisa comments. Lisa says, it was very hard for me to learn how to take compliments, never mind being okay with saying I accomplished this. And I think that is something that happens for a lot of women. Okay, my pop-ups need to stop so I can get rid of this comment, please.
I agree, Lisa. It's hard. It's hard, but
it is.
My brain also says we all got to do better. And maybe you're right. Maybe if we all cheer each other on and we hear it more, it'll be easier to take the compliment, if you know what I mean.
And we got our first Facebook user of the day, and whomever this is, sorry, Facebook user, StreamYard isn't showing me your name, says keeping our industry active and healthy helps all of us. So that is true. Yeah. And I hate to say this, ladies, but we're almost at the end of our hour. So I want to do really quickly, I need to go back down here. Love that cotton is the awesome business in the warehouse. So
yes.
Go buy some blanks. And then Everything Embroidery Market is the trade show that will be in Myrtle Beach in September. And if you would like to go to a trade show before September, you can come to Applique Getaway and see Love That Cotton, who will be there in a booth. So
come hug me.
I just want to say, I just want to go, Facebook user is Lindsay. Oh no, her electricity is out. Oh dear. That's no good. Thank you for being here, Lindsay. And thank you, Hope and Cristina, for being here. This was such a great conversation. I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
It was so fun. All right, everybody, before I talk for another half an hour, I'm going to hit end broadcast now. And there will be a show next week. I'm not sure what it's going to be yet. Probably just me, but you've listened to me talk before, so you can do it again. It'll be all right. All right. Thank you, everybody.
See you in a couple of weeks.